Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me on another devlog. I hope everyone is having a good day. It's been a little over a month now since the last devlog, but that just means I got more done on my game. There have been some tweaks to what the game is supposed to be, and the new reformed game will be an action platformer with some Metroidvania aspects. So with all that said, let's jump into the devlog. I want to tell a story through limited cutscenes and dialogue, and the best way to do that is with meaningful lore items and great visual storytelling. So the first thing I'm doing is creating some lore items, which I'm only showing a few here to savor the others for when the actual game is played. But the few I am showing can maybe help paint a picture of what's to come in the next couple months. So that was just a little sneak peek into the visual storytelling and lore items of the game. I next need to add a stun effect for the player because I plan on creating some strong enemies that can stun the player if they are not careful enough. So the visuals I want for this is the imagery of stars circling the player's head like in cartoons, and the actual gameplay effect will be that the players won't be able to move or perform any actions for a short period of time. I'm using the effects player I created in the last devlog to show the visuals for the stun effect, so that makes the visuals easy to implement. So now the coding for the effect is also quite simple, because all I have to do is create a custom variable called stunned, and when it is equal to true, all input is blocked and the code tells the effect to play. The effect will probably last for 1 second, or I am thinking that I might make the length vary depending on how hard the hit was from the enemy. In the end, I am happy with the final result, so now let's jump into the next section of the devlog. Right off the bat, I just created some quick fade in and fade out animations for when transitioning between scenes, which was easy because I just made an animation player for game overlay, and anytime a new scene is loaded, the correct overlay animation is played. The animations are not anything crazy, but they help make the game feel smoother and just look better. Now I am drawing the animations for the different characters in the opening cutscene, starting with Finnan, the main character, and the person the player plays as. The context of these animations will be explained later in the devlog, but for now you might be able to piece together what's going on just by looking at each character's animations separately. The next and last two characters in the cutscene are not as prominent in the story as Finnan, but this character is Finnan's wife, Famir, who is the mother of the 3 baby squirrels at the top of the elder tree. This next character is called the Ancient One, who is one of the creators of this universe and appears to Finnan at the end of the cutscene to give him the opportunity to work for him in exchange for powers and protection of his kids after their loss. The Ancient One teleports into the cutscene, so I have to create some animations for that, which the style of teleportation effect I am choosing is going for a mix of electricity and explosion effects. With all the needed animations drawn and imported to Godot, I can start animating the cutscene using an animation player. Like I said earlier, I will now explain what is happening in this cutscene. Finnan's wife Famir has become very ill and ends up dying in this cutscene, and while Finnan is mourning, the Ancient One appears and gives Finnan an offer. If Finnan agrees to hunt down and recapture dangerous monsters that escaped their prison in a different realm, then the Ancient One will give him magnificent powers and be given the title of a Champion of Light. As well, the Ancient One says he will watch over Finnan's children while he is on his journey. In Finnan's culture, they bury their loved ones just like humans do. So I now have to draw Famir's grave that will be located at the bottom of the elder tree. Drawing and implementing Famir's grave to appear after the opening cutscene was the last thing to do in this section of the devlog, so let's move on to the third section of the devlog. Early in January, I was contacted by a viewer with the username of Anita Dejun Tichinda that offered to make some pixel art for my game, and the first artwork they did was create a tile map for the grass biome. The tile map looks very good, and I created a new spike tile to go with the new grass tile map. The same viewer also created new sprites for the hawk enemy, but I have yet to decide if I want to use the new sprite sheet that was created. I know in a devlog a while back I said the player wasn't going to be able to fight back against the enemies, but I ended up changing my mind and deciding that the game would be more fun if the player was actually able to defend themselves with a weapon. So I found a nice spreadsheet with many different weapons on itch.io and chose to have a wooden sword weapon at the start of the game. When creating a wooden sword attack, I decided that the sword would just swing in the direction the player was facing no matter where the mouse was clicked, to make the wooden sword feel more primitive, because I plan on having a new weapon later in the game that can swing in any direction based on where the player clicked the mouse. Obviously I had to change some of the enemy's code to work with the wooden sword attack, so while I was at it I also quickly created a hit animation for the enemies and will be working on a death animation after this devlog. The wooden sword works beautifully and I'm very excited to make enemies with the fact in mind that the player can now attack back. A little add-on for this section of the devlog is the fact that I updated the player movement to make it feel better and make it more customized for my game. I also decided to add coyote time to the player to make the platforming feel more fluid. This is the last part of section 3 of this devlog, so let's move on to the fourth and last section. This last section is basically just a sneak peek to one of the major things I am working on in the next devlog. I am creating my game's first boss, a stone golem. I just started with creating all the animations in an animation player using a sprite sheet I also found on itch.io. There are many different animations that I created. Just a few of them are idle, glowing, death, and melee attack. The last thing I did for the stone golem is create some basic AI so it can change to a select few animations and move towards the player. The stone golem can also already take damage because I created a class called Hurtbox that I can just look up in the editor window and drop the area 2D and script into an entity I want. Hooking the rest up for it only takes a few minutes. I am happy with the state the stone golem is in. I am excited to do more work on it and present the final version to you all next month in the next devlog, but we will all have to wait for that. Thank you all for watching and adapting to the new release cycle of once a month. If you want to leave a comment down below with any suggestions, feel free, and as always, this is RBC Mr. Rhodes, signing off for now.